something important just changed in robotics. Not because one humanoid robot suddenly became perfect, and not because a single company won the race. It changed because in the last stretch of 2026 news, the industry started showing its real shape. Figures talking about production speed. Apptronik is stacking serious capital and industrial partnerships. 1X is pushing the home robot story with new AI research. Unitree is pushing lower price, faster access machines. And then Genesis AI just did something even more interesting. It challenged the humanoid idea itself with a wheeled robot called Eno. But here's what really matters. The bigger story is not which robot looks most human. The bigger story is which companies are actually building machines that can be trained, produced, deployed, and paid for in the real world. And by the end of this video, that's exactly what you'll understand. This matters right now because humanoid robotics is moving out of the pure demo phase and into a harder phase: manufacturing, task reliability, and business model pressure. Figure says it has demonstrated a 1 robot per hour cycle time at BotQ. Apptronik says Apollo is already aimed at manufacturing and logistics, with deals involving Mercedes-Benz and GXO. Boston Dynamics says Atlas is built for industrial work, and Hyundai previously said U.S. factory deployment is planned for 2028. That tells you the race is no longer just about flashy videos. It's about who can survive contact with factories. And for normal viewers, developers, and businesses, that changes the question. It's no longer, can a robot walk? It's, can it do useful work safely, repeatedly, and cheaply enough to matter? That's the line the whole industry is now trying to cross. So what has happened over the past few months? And why did this week's Eno announcement make the trend much clearer? First, the market kept reinforcing the industrialization story. Figure's April production update showed BotQ moving from prototype work into production, with dedicated lines and over 150 networked workstations, and a demonstrated 1 robot per hour cycle time for Figure 03 targets. That does not mean mass deployment is solved, but it does mean at least one major player is trying to act like a manufacturer, not just a lab. Second, Apptronik remains one of the clearest signs that serious capital still believes in humanoids. Reuters reported in February that the company raised $520 million in a Series A extension, bringing valuation near $5 billion, with backing tied to Google and Mercedes-Benz. Apptronik says its Series A now exceeds $935 million. Whether or not Apollo becomes dominant, that funding tells you investors still think there is a real industrial platform business here. Third, 1X is still pushing the opposite narrative, that humanoids belong in the home, not just the warehouse. 1X says NEO deliveries are set to start in 2026, and in June it launched a world model lab focused on pre-training embodied AI. In plain English, that means it is betting that household robots will need much broader world understanding, not just narrow task tuning. And then there's the part most people missed. One of the most interesting stories this week was not a humanoid success story at all. Reuters reported that Genesis AI unveiled Eno, a general-purpose robot with wheels, a foldable tower, and human-like hands. The message is blunt. For many real jobs, especially on flat industrial floors, the full humanoid body may not be the most practical design. That is a huge signal. The industry is no longer arguing only about brands. It is starting to argue about form factor itself. To understand this trend, you need to separate humanoid robotics into 3 layers. The first layer is the body: legs, wheels, hands, arms, payload, battery life, and balance. This is the hardware problem. Apptronik says Apollo can carry 55 pounds and uses swappable batteries. Boston Dynamics says Atlas is meant for real-world industrial material handling. Genesis is effectively saying wheels may beat legs in many controlled environments. The second layer is control. A modern humanoid is not just remote-controlled machinery. Companies are trying to give these robots models that connect vision, language, and action. Figure's Helix is described as a vision-language-action model, meaning the robot can see a scene, interpret a spoken instruction, and turn that into physical movement. 1X's New World Model Lab is pushing a related idea from a different angle. Pre-training models so robots build broader physical intuition before deployment. The third layer is deployment. This is the part that sounds boring, and it's actually the most important. Deployment means data collection, safety zones, maintenance, replacement parts, task design, factory integration, and learning loops after the robot leaves the lab. Figure's production update, Apptronik's logistics and auto partnerships, and Boston Dynamics industrial framing all point to the same truth. The robot is only half the product. The workflow is the other half. So what does this mean in practice? In the near term, the most realistic use case is still controlled industrial work. Think material handling, simple pick-and-place work, line-side logistics, repetitive transport, and environments designed around predictable floors and repeatable tasks. That is why companies keep talking about factories, warehouses, and logistics before they talk about your kitchen. Here's a concrete example. A factory today might use fixed automation for one task, human workers for exception handling, and carts or forklifts for movement. A capable humanoid or humanoid-like mobile manipulator could bridge those gaps, carrying bins, moving between stations, handling unfamiliar objects, and working in spaces already built for human hands and shelves. That is the commercial promise investors are funding. This workflow logic is consistent with how Apptronik, Figure, Boston Dynamics, and Genesis are positioning their systems. If you're a developer, this is where it gets interesting. The winning company may not be the one with the most human-looking robot. It may be the one with the best data engine, the best way to collect demonstrations, retrain models, simulate tasks, and push reliable updates back into the field. That's why AI labs inside robotics companies matter so much now. If you run a business, the takeaway is simpler. Don't watch the promo clip. Watch the deployment environment, the operating cost, and the task boundaries. That's where the truth is. Now here's the catch. The hype is still ahead of the reality. Even the strongest players are still proving basic things. Uptime, dexterity, safety around humans, maintenance cost, battery performance, and the ability to handle edge cases. A robot doing one polished demo is not the same thing as a robot surviving thousands of messy work cycles. The gap between can do and can do every day is still enormous. There's also a market risk. If too many companies chase the same humanoid form without proving useful economics, a lot of them will fail. Reuters noted the scale problem clearly when discussing China's sector in Unitree. Future humanoid forecasts are huge, but current sales volumes are still far smaller than what true mass adoption would require. And then there's the design risk. Genesis AI's Eno is a reminder that humanoid may be partly a marketing story. For flat-floor industrial settings, wheels can be more efficient, simpler, and safer than legs. So one big risk for humanoid startups is that the market may reward human capability more than human shape. That said, there is one reason not to overreact. Human-like hands, reach, and body proportions still matter in spaces built for humans. So even if full humanoids do not dominate every setting, the core idea behind them, robots built to use human tools and human environments, is still very strong. The debate now is where that matters enough to justify the cost. Here's what to watch next. First, watch for proof of sustained deployment, not one-off demos. If Figure can keep translating manufacturing claims into field performance, that matters. If Apptronik turns pilots and partnerships into repeat orders, that matters. If 1X actually delivers meaningful in-home capability rather than narrow chore demos, that matters even more. Second, watch the software race. The companies that combine strong hardware with better embodied AI training may pull away fast. Over the next 12 to 24 months, the biggest moat in robotics may shift from mechanics alone to the quality of the learning loop. Demonstrations, simulations, safety tuning, and post-deployment adaptation. That direction is consistent with how Figure, 1X, and Genesis are framing their AI stacks. Third, Watch whether the category itself splits. Instead of one winning humanoid robot, we may end up with 3 adjacent categories: true industrial humanoids, cheaper semi-humanoid or wheeled manipulators, and home-focused assistants with far stricter safety and reliability requirements. That would make this market look less like one race, and more like several different races wearing the same label. So, what really happened this week? The humanoid robot story got more real. Not cleaner, not settled, more real. Because the conversation is finally moving away from pure spectacle and toward the questions that actually decide industries. Can you build it at volume? Can you train it fast enough? Can you deploy it safely? Can you make the economics work? And maybe the sharpest question of all, does it even need to be fully humanoid in the first place? That's why this moment matters. The future of robotics probably will not be decided by the robot that looks most like us. It'll be decided by the machine and the company that fits best into the real world we already have. So which path do you think wins first? Factory humanoids, wheeled manipulators, or home robots? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more grounded AI and robotics breakdowns like this, subscribe. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.